Good afternoon. I'm here today with Jim Sammons from Vero Beach High School. We're conducting his legacy interview. Good afternoon, Mr. Sammons.
Good afternoon, Luke. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Our first question for you today is, why did you decide to be a band director, and what were the circumstances that began your band career?
Well, I have to think all the way back to being in the fifth grade. Actually, in the fourth grade, I had a neighbor that took my mom and I one night and said, "Come on, let's go watch the local high school band." And I remember going to Pirate Field there at our school. I'm from Colquitt, Georgia, Miller County in southwest Georgia. And I remember going down to the stadium, Pirate Field, and going to the football game. And at halftime, the band came on the field. I had never seen a live band before. And I remember the striking red and white uniforms and the music and the drill. And it just made an impact on a 9-year-old kid that, wow, I want to do that. The very next year in fifth grade, my high school band director, Chester Baggett, was the gentleman that got me inspired to join the band. He started us all in the fifth grade. He was a one-man show. And Mr. Baggett came over and talked to all the kids in the English classes and said, "Hey, if you want to join the band, we're going to be offering, flutophone band, for about 6 weeks, and you'll come twice a week out of PE class and learn how to read music and play music." So we brought our dollar to school and we purchased a flutophone, and we got a little book, and Mr. Baggett came over a couple of times a week, and we learned how to count music and play songs. And at that point, I remember trying to pick an instrument and being unsure, but my neighbors had a $25 Olds recording cornet, and it was an affordable price. I messed around with it a little bit before the end of the flutophone sessions and decided that cornet trumpet was my instrument. So that got me in the band to start with. And career-wise, I thought Mr. Baggett was the coolest person in the world. He had the best job. He was just someone to really admire. I loved being in the band. I grew through the program from the elementary band into the junior band, and made the senior band as an 8th grader, which was kind of unheard of, but they were really short of cornet players. And at some point there, I traded my $25 cornet for a $100 used trumpet that my dad got me, and I continued to play through high school. About the 8th or 9th grade year, we traveled by charter bus over to Troy State University for band day, and I saw and heard the college band for the first time. And again, that sound, that visual just made a powerful impact. And I knew I wanted to go to school at Troy. I saw this guy up on a ladder, directing the band, Dr. John Long, and I latched onto that, and that was my dream. So when I got out of high school, I got a scholarship at Troy and went and became part of the Sound of the South. And, being associated with Dr. Long, Truman Welch, the staff there, these are people I looked up to. So I made a decision that I was going to be a music major and high school band director.
All right.
Is that right?
That's
pretty
good.
good. Okay.
We'll take that one.
All right, good.
Where did you begin your teaching career, and where did you go from there?
Well, I have an interesting story. It's a little bit different than the path that many people follow. I started my teaching career before finishing, my undergraduate degree there at Troy. I married my first wife, Sheila, in the summer of 1974. And I just finished my sophomore year, and knowing that we needed some money, Dr. Long called us into his office and says, "Hey, we have an opening for band director out at Goshen High School. They're trying to find somebody, but in the meantime, we've got some summer band things. Would you and your wife like to make some money and go, work with these kids for a few Thursday evenings and so forth?" And well, yeah, we needed money, so we went out, out to Goshen High, which was about 14 miles southwest of Troy, and met the kids, and ran some voice group rehearsals, and let them play some tunes that they had in their music folder, and was looking forward to getting a check. And well, towards the end of the summer, they still hadn't hired a band director, and the question got popped to me, one afternoon. Listen, do you think you might get a marching show together and maybe get them started? And oh, by the way, they have an out-of-town band camp up to a scout camp up at Tuscaloosa. And boy, that was a shocker. I'm going, you realize that my wife and I have not finished college. Oh, that's just temporary. We hire somebody. So I figured out how to put together a football show, took that band to camp. It was pretty much a disaster. I should apologize, to those students and folks for, the ineptitude of the times, but we did the best we could. We came back with something on the field, and I'm thinking, I sure hope they got a band director, because marching camp at the college is going to start soon. Well, it never happened. We ended up, being the band directors and kind of sharing the responsibilities so that we could both stay in school. And so I spent my last 2 years of college teaching high school at Goshen High School, the band director, and doing the elementary and the lower grades. The band was a 6 through 12 band, which was quite interesting. And that got us off to a very, very unique start.
Where did you go from there?
Well, we spent 2 years at Goshen High, and I want to point out I'm kind of dressed today in my 3 school color and outfits. I'm wearing my gold tie for purple and gold. That was Goshen High School, and my light blue shirt reflects the second high school I served, Walton High School in Defuniak Springs, Florida. That was my introduction to the state of Florida. We incorporated the light blue in the uniform change that we made. And I'm wearing my tomahawk here from Vero Beach High School. So I'm representing all 3 of my schools, because no one ever has a long career, and hopefully what's considered a successful career without all these schools and the kids that play for you and work for you, and the parents and the communities. So I have a great amount of respect for all 3 of my schools. So I kind of gave it away. I ended up leaving after 2 years and going down to Walton High School in Defuniak Springs and taking the program there. And then after 4 years at Walton, we moved to Vero Beach in 1980. So we've been there since 1980, and I think this is my 34th year at Vero Beach High School. But I am so grateful for the kids at Goshen High School and at Walton High School for putting up me, and the things that I learned in those situations really set the stage for our success at Vero Beach. And of course I'm grateful for the kids here at Vero Beach as well.
Thank you. What challenges have you encountered as a band director?
I don't think this interview's long enough for that. They're as numerous as you can imagine. Teenagers are unique in the nature of their age group and so forth. And I think changing with the times, as the kids have changed. Kids basically haven't changed any, but the things around them have changed. Their distractions and resources have changed, both probably positively and negatively. So I think keeping up with the generational change over time has been a problem. I see a change about every 5 years, what I maybe term as a generational change. So keeping up with that, keeping up with the changes in technology, and education is in a constant, state of change. And of course, I see the more it changes, the more it stays the same in some ways, or the more it changes for the better, the worse it gets. So I think those are some definite challenges. On the musical side of it, on the director side of it, the challenge, again, is keeping up, making sure that you know the pedagogy, for teaching the various instruments. And, having taught band at, third graders flutophone, and fourth and fifth grade and sixth grade and middle school beginning band at Walton, as well as the high school group. Just knowing all the pedagogy, and then you obviously as you have kids in the upper grades, you have various abilities. So knowing how to get the right sound out of the instruments, knowing how to deal with the problems, knowing all the ins and outs is a challenge. Keeping up with literature, making sure that you know the latest method books, the latest training materials, the new literature, the old standards, those kind of things. Constantly trying to be a better conductor, constantly trying to be a better teacher. Those are challenges, and then just being able to go to work day after day after day, and do the numerous performances and rehearsals that we have to do. There's a lot of endurance there.
All right. In your career, what were some of the highlights and pivotal moments that were your band's experienced success?
Well, I've been blessed, with a lot of success, and I have to credit, the kids from, day one of my career in Goshen all the way to today. I mean, you don't do anything like that without the kids being part of it, and having to own it, and all the support, and your family. You can't do it without your family. You have to make a lot of relationships. I think a pivotal moment is sometimes you have to kind of run into the wall. And we had the first year out at Goshen had good success. We got all superiors at the Southeastern States Marching Festival there in Troy, and I decided that we would do the concert contest or festival. We didn't call it MPA back then, for the Alabama Bandmasters. And so we take the band down to district, and bear in mind, we didn't own a concert tuba. We had, marching two white fiberglass sousaphones. We didn't have any double reeds. We just had kind of basic band up there, no color instruments. We just kind of went, but I thought the band sounded pretty good. And they had an interesting system of yes, you're recommended for state, and no, you're not. And so we went through the process of playing on stage, and I felt good about it. I thought the kids did the best they could do. It sounded pretty good to me. And then I got my sheets back from the adjudicators, and at the bottom of the first sheet was no. The bottom of the second sheet was no. The bottom of the third sheet was in big capital letters, no, with an exclamation point after it. And that was an eye-opener. I didn't really know what to do. And I had to scratch up a cassette to even play the tapes back. I had to borrow a cassette player from somebody to listen to the tapes. But I immediately took my sheets and tapes, to Truman Welch there at Troy. And I talked with Mr. Welch about it. And he goes, well, they pretty much got it right. Here's, this is right. This is what you need to work on. Focus on this. He gave me a whole laundry list of things to do for the next year. And, the next year, we got right back in the district concert contest thing. And lo and behold, we got, 3 recommendations to go to state. We had bought some concert instruments. We had fundraisers, bought us an oboe, bought us a bassoon, bought us a couple of bass clarinets, actually bought some real timpani, and a couple of concert tubas. And, we went back and we went to state for the first time in many, many years at that school. And we got all excellence, and I think that was getting those 3 no's, and the comments that I got made me realize that what I need to do. And the other thing that we did different is I sought out lots of help. I got Mr. Welch down there. I got some of the area band directors down there, and I realized that I didn't have the ears. I'm very young. I didn't have the ears. I found a few recordings of bands, which were pretty scarce. Where we work. Excuse me. So that was pretty pivotal. So I kind of took that knowledge on down to Walton High School, and I can remember, District 1 is, to this day, one of the strongest districts anywhere in the country. And I tried to latch on to, the successful band directors, and I remember taking the Walton Marching Band down to the district marching contest at that time, and we went early, and the thing ran all day long anyway, and I made the kids, sit and watch and so forth. And I remember Ernie Hebson's Fort Walton Beach Band came out late in the afternoon, early evening, and they turned around on the track and they played the big chorale section of Russian Christmas music. Wow, that just blew me and the kids away. And I said, okay, we got to sound like that. We're probably not going to ever have that many kids, but we got to sound like that. And I latched on to the model, went to observe rehearsals, hung out at the contest around North Florida and South Alabama, and put those sounds in the ears. And the next year, the Walton Band, the next spring, we went to concert district, and we got 2 2s and a 1. As soon as I got the band back to Walton, I hopped in the car, drove back, and heard the last couple of bands of the evening. Then came back on Saturday, and I ran into Oliver Hobbs. That was one of the judges, and I thanked Mr. Hobbs. I'd introduced myself, and I thanked him, and I said, and when I was in high school, my band director had you as guest conductor, a number of times, and I said, thank you, for your comments. And he says, well, he said, I think we both lit a spark yesterday. He said, the band was right on the margin, almost ready, to take on, playing at state. And he said, and I really wanted to provide some encouragement. And I said, well, your sheets were extremely positive. And to have a superior and the approval of Oliver Hobbs really fired me up. And, I think those kind of things are pivotal moments. And we went on to state the next 3 years with Walton and got excellence. We weren't able to break through. But from those 6 years, I'm thinking, okay, we were successful because we did this, this, and this. And by the way, the Walton Band, had gotten, straight superiors at both district and marching band the following 3 years. And coming down to Vero Beach, the program needed to be rebuilt in terms of numbers and a number of things. And again, I followed that model. Let's find some great bands, to watch and listen to, and we did the same thing. I took the kids to observe some marching events. We'd go early and stay late on concert events, and I latched on to the successful directors, asked people to come and rehearse my band. I made good friends with a couple of our legendary directors. Harry Grant was in Fort Pierce, and I was able to get Harry to come and teach lessons and hang out at the band room every week. And Bill Miller from Lakeland also latched on and became a regular visitor to the band room. We've been able to achieve a lot of things, at Vero. I think some of the highlights of would be, obviously appearances at Macy's or the Tournament of Roses we did, the Fiesta Bowl. Playing at Carnegie Hall was certainly a thrill for the kids. And the exposure at events like Carnegie Hall, the National Festival there, and exposure to the best adjudicators in the country, spending a half an hour with people like Frank Battisti and Craig Kirchhoff and Robert Reynolds, those kind of caliber adjudicators really helped me grow, and it, of course that venue's wonderful. And we played the Music for All National Festival a couple of years ago in Indianapolis, and to be critiqued by Colonel Gabriel and folks like Gary Green and a number of the fine conductors made a big difference, in the band. We've had a good bit of success at state, concert, MPA, and each one of those is a pivotal moment. You've conquered the literature, and the kids are playing at their best. And one of the best moments when those bands come off stage is the release of energy. The hugs and the tears and things that go on after you've played one of those performances are really pivotal. And I think pivotal things too. Part of my story is probably the unique involvement of family. My son Mike grew up in the band and is now a very successful, percussionist at the collegiate level. My family's always been involved. Unfortunately, I lost my first wife, Sheila, in 1995. I was lucky that I found another partner, Priscilla. We married in 1999. She works with me with the auxiliary. So it's kind of always been a family affair. And I think that helps us bond with the kids. You know, you say highlights of the career. I think some of the bonding with the kids and the parents and, you know, the band becoming an institution in the community, that's a highlight. It's an ongoing highlight. But, you know, just all the wonderful concerts where you play, you know, we have that red, white, and blue concert, and, you know, the reward of having the vets come up after the concert and, you know, with tears, or, you know, they want to shake your hand and thank you for recognizing them. Those kind of things, I think, are highlights, and each one of those is a pivotal point, because I think one of those things leads to the next thing.
Very good, thank you. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice that you could pass on to future directors?
I don't think we have enough tape for that. In summary, I kind of already kind of hinted at it. I think the best thing you can do is work as hard as you can every day. Try to learn something every day. Make sure you learn from your students. They have things to offer. Relationships, you know, band director families are under tremendous stress. No one ever does this without, you know, family, without friends, without students, without communities, without colleagues that you depend on. And I would advise band directors to build those relationships as much as possible. And you know, spend as much time with family as you can. And mine's probably chuckling at that, because there's many times that family has, you know, been on the short end of the stick with time. You know, there've been some difficulties with that, as they are with all. But all in all, a very supportive family is extremely important, and I've been blessed in that respect. I've been blessed with the best friends and colleagues anybody could ever expect. So again, harping on those relationships. And the other thing I would say that's really important is figure out what the role of the band is in your school. You know, we band directors have to wear so many hats. We have to be, first and foremost, we're music teachers. We have to teach music. Our medium happens to be band, but we have to teach music. We're educators. We have to teach music education. But we're also teachers of life. We have to teach the kids, you know, life lessons and you know, all the extrinsic things that come from being in band. We have to teach them appreciation of music. But I think, you know, figure out what the role of the band is, and understand what the role of the school band is in the school and the community. In our community, we're small. You know, we're the town band. You know, we're pivotal in civic ceremonies and events and school events. You know, we're always in demand. I think it's not so much maybe in bigger districts where there are lots and lots of schools, but every band belongs to the school, and we view that as our primary role. Past, you know, being music teachers and music educators, then we're there to add that color and atmosphere to the school. And I think sometimes we in the profession think that, well, you know, we're there to play my favorite literature, what I want to play, march the show that I want to march, do the events that I want to do, versus, and maybe sometimes we take up more of the kids' time than we should. And that's maybe a third warning is try to respect the kids' time without compromising, you know, your excellence. Excellence does require time, and it does require some inconvenience on everybody's part, you know, students, parents, the band directors, that sort of thing. And you know, at some point too, I want to say I've been blessed with awesome colleagues, you know, at the school, in my department. I've had awesome associate band directors. You know, after Sheila passed away in '95, you know, I had David Platt come in there and just do his thing, and what a wonderful asset he was to us. And then we had, you know, Shanti Simon come in behind David, and currently David Paige Howell is there. Without those three people, we wouldn't be where we are. I wouldn't be where we are. And lumping that in with all, again, I guess I keep coming back to relationships, but that is pivotal in at least in my success. And I think that everyone should focus on their relationships at all levels.
Is there one thing about your personal character that you would say enabled you to achieve your high level of musical excellence?
I'm hard-headed, determined, perseverant. I won't quit. If I latch onto an idea, if it makes any kind of sense and I see any headway, even though you run into the wall with it, I'll hang on to it. And it's not that I wouldn't be inflexible. I'll modify it. I'll move it left, right, up, or down, whatever it takes to get to the end game. I'm kind of a process person. I think, okay, where's my end game? And then I work backwards from the end game. So I think being process-oriented, goal-oriented, and perseverant, and I'll work as hard as it takes. Whether that's listening to my recordings until the wee hours of the morning, and working on the scores, to getting out there with the band parents and completing a project, just whatever, hard work and unwilling to fail. I'm just not willing to fail. That don't mean we haven't failed or I haven't failed. And some things haven't turned out as successful as I would like them to be. But over the 40 years, I remember the first year out there at Goshen when I got called out there, we didn't have a place to practice. And so I said, well, they practice in the stadium. Going to the stadium, the grass is knee high. Well, who's going to cut the grass? Well, nobody worked in the summer. And the school tractor was locked up, so I grabbed a lawnmower and a bunch of band kids, and we mowed that thing and raked it by hand. And I realized early on that just by working hard, that you're going to get these obstacles, and the only way to quote, win is to just work hard at it and not take, failure as an option.
All right. What concepts do you have to instill in your students in order for them to achieve quality music?
I would say the first thing is attitude. And by that, I don't necessarily mean, good conduct and behavior as such, although that's you have to have that. But when I say attitude, I think that buy-in. I think they have to see the relevance of what we're doing. I think they have to be willing to accept, what you have to say. I think they have to learn procedure, technique, the way we're going to do something, and that's twofold. The band is a microcosm of the school, and it's also a mini society, and so I think there's two parts to the band thing. And part one is creating that society, and how that works, how that's governed, how that's self-policed by the kids. What is their ownership in it? All the stuff you have to do, like load trucks, and to this day we still have to paint our football field, our practice field, things like that. Getting the kids to work and own it from their perspective, not have anything done for them. So that kind of that societal, and even all that has process. We have a process on how we're going to load the truck, and all the way to how we file music and all that stuff. And my colleague Paige Howell has done a tremendous job of bringing high organization to the thing. The other side of it is the musical things that they have to know, and you start from and this is, I'm not original, I just kind of picked up on this and thought, hey, this is right. You go back to beginning band every day. You have to constantly go back to your fundamentals. So the kids have to understand that things are a process. So their attitude about it. They obviously have to be well schooled in the pedagogy of their instrument, the technique of playing the instrument. They have to be they have to understand too that you take baby steps. You don't develop into a good player, quickly. You drop, it's like filling the jug of pennies, you drop them in one at a time. And that's part of that process of taking the steps. You have to instill in that they need a model. They need to have a professional player on their instrument that they watch on YouTube or listen to, by download off the internet or whatever, how they get it. They have to have a model for that. You have to instill in them too the fact that they have to practice. They have to be willing to take the instrument and spend time, working out the notes and rhythms and those kind of things. So that work ethic, the sound in their head, those kind of things you have to instill in them, and you just have to get them to basically buy in attitudinally and understand all the important things of playing the instrument: intonation, tone, balance, blend, rhythm, time, all the expressive qualities, and they have to buy into that process.
Okay. What do you do in order to keep your edge?
Okay, well, first of all, this is a passion for me. It's a hobby, and to my detriment, and my family would say that, just to your detriment sometimes, and I think you have to decide that you're passionate about it. Passion isn't something that just shows up one day, for whatever reason that we don't understand. We're just into it. So, back from singing here, my first high school band, it's something I wanted to do. And my role model band directors, Chester Baggett as my high school director, and Dr. John Long at college. I wanted to be those people. I've admired so many of the high school band directors in Florida. I've drawn inspiration from that. So you have to be inspired. You have to have some passion. But I also think you have to just flat out love music. You have to love to listen to music and read about music and study music, and you have to love to go to performances, those kind of things. I spend time studying constantly, downloading articles and reading the trade magazines and reading books about music, books about musicians and conductors. I go to the conventions and things like that, and when I can't, I pick up materials off of YouTube and the internet, and I subscribe to a number of things like the Music for All. You can subscribe and hear all the bands that played the last few years. The same thing with some of the marching events. So I'm just constantly looking at role models and listening to music. And I spend a good bit of time, going over my adjudicator sheets and comments, and taking those to heart and applying them whenever possible. So I'm just passionate about what I do. I love kids. I like kids a lot more than I like most adults, and because I think they're very genuine. And so I just enjoy, watching the kid, that smile on their face when they, actually learn how to play that solo, or you watch the smile on the freshman's face when they come off the field after their first show, and I get a kick out of watching them succeed, and I just love the sound of a band, and so that's probably why I've been at it as long as I have, and continue to be at it for a bit longer.
All right. Well, leading into the next question, what do you plan on doing after you retire?
That's a very tough question, and sometimes I refuse to think about that. I really love my job, and of course there's things about my job I don't like. Some of the administrative things and dealing with administrators, and sometimes the disgruntled parent, or the disgruntled community person that you can't do their parade on a particular Saturday because you have MPA. So there's quite a things that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to miss. Sometimes I think about, okay, what am I going to do? And there's things that I want to do. I like to read. I like to fish. Anybody that knows me, I do have a passion for fishing. And we have a family farm in South Georgia still. So that's of interest. I think when I first decide to, retire, I'll probably take some time off and do some of those things. I want to, travel a little bit and, spend trying to make up some time, with my son that I missed over the years. But I intend to get, I won't say get back in the game, I plan to be in the game. Even if I take, 6 months or, a year off and do some things. But I want to write about music. I want to continue to study. I intend to go to, concerts and, things that I wouldn't get to do otherwise. But I intend to continue to teach, whether it's showing up in somebody's band room and, paying them $50 so I can rehearse their band or whatever it takes to be in somebody's band room. And I'd like to maybe, teach some brass lessons and sectional things like that, maybe clinics and bands. I'd like to continue to adjudicate that sort of thing. But I intend to be at the FBA events and, maybe travel and around the state and see some bands and things that I haven't done. But at the same time, I'm going to work in some fishing and some reading and writing time and, some time for family and grandchildren and things of that nature. But I don't ever plan to stop, being a music teacher.
All right. Well, and in closing, do you have one short story that would demonstrate your satisfaction in choosing the life of a band director?
That's probably the toughest question of this interview, Luke. To find one thing. I think what we do is very powerful. I think it's very important. I think it's important in ways we don't think about. What's important is not that the band marched at the Tournament of Roses, or we have a long string of records at the state MPA, making those superiors. I think what's important is what the individual kids get out of it and what they do 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I'm not quite sure when I realized that. I'm trying to think back as you asked that question to the first time I realized, now I've always thought being the band director was a big deal, but I thought it was kind of a big deal for me. And then I realized, okay, this is a big deal for those kids. And I'll travel back in time. Sometime in the early 80s, after we had relocated down to Vero Beach, we had the occasion to go back to Troy. I think the Marine Band was doing a concert that weekend, and it might have been homecoming. For whatever reason, I might have been just going up to visit my parents. Whatever reason, doesn't matter. We were in Troy on a weekend in the fall, and I remember going to the Marine Band concert, and then the game was that night, and had a great time. Met some of my former Sound of the South, colleagues, and it was a great time. Dr. Long had a tradition of playing an after-game concert. And hundreds of people would just go out on the field and hear the Sound of the South play. So we went out on the field, and afterwards, you're shaking hands with friends and hugging, and and a few of the band members came down to see their parents and things like that. And I can remember playing that concert and watching my own parents down on that field. So anyway, I'm making my way back up to the stands to head on out, and I got tapped on the arm. And I turned around, and here's a young lady in her, Sound of the South band outfit. And she says, "You're Mr. Sammons, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she says, "Well, I'll respect your privacy." She says, "You started me in band at Goshen Elementary School when I was in the 4th grade." And I said, "Yes, I remember you. You and your parents, you all lived out north of town, on such and such a highway and so forth." I said, "Yes, I do remember you." And she goes, "Well, I only had you 1 year." I said, "Yes, I know. I, ended up going down to Defeating Springs." And she goes, "Well, thank you." I said, "Oh, okay, well, you're welcome." And kind of like, "Well, what do you mean, thank you?" And she says, "Well, I wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't been for you." She said, "If you remember, I really didn't want to be in band, but my parents did. And you sat down and had a talk with me and convinced me that I should just try it, that I should try the flutophone and then try the clarinet until, the next 6 weeks ran by." And she said, "I wouldn't be in this band if it weren't for you doing that." And course, that was one of those emotional moments and it was a transformative moment, I think, because that's when I realized the real impact that we can have on kids. How many kids wouldn't be doing something if all of us teachers, not just band directors, but all of us in education didn't have these impacts. And for some of these kids, what we do, being in the high school band, is the biggest thing they're going to ever do. Wearing that uniform and marching out on that field or playing that concert is the biggest thing they're going to ever do. And I think we all have those kind of moments. But that moment with the young lady that I had started all those years ago, we're talking 7, 8, 9 years before, I re-met her. And for her to remember me after, just teaching fourth grade band, what fourth grader remembers their fourth grade teacher other than maybe who they were, much less to walk up to them and, thank them. So I think that was a pivotal story that helped me realize how important what all of us do is.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing that.
That's my pleasure.
And thank you for coming down today and doing this interview.
My pleasure. Thank you.